Az én édesanyám az csak rátott húst csinált, mindig az volt nálunk az ünnepi jele, de mást is tudott, csak még esetleg fasítot is tudott. Sose nyitott ki szakácskönyvet, erre a kettőre emlékezett, ez volt. Fasít vagy rántott hús. Ó, de persze örültünk, a húst tehettünk, mert hát, ha nem hús.
That's Erzsé, my chosen grandmother, in her kitchen in Hatvan, Hungary, a small city named 60 for its kilometric distance from the capital. She's lived her entire life here. In her tiny backyard, she keeps chickens and pigs and a small garden, a freedom that was forbidden in Hungary during her childhood in the 1950s when suppression within the Soviet bloc was at its worst. When I visit, her immaculate galley kitchen smells of boiled chicken, onions, peppers, and pork fat. She hands food through a small serving window into her dining room. Across the embroidered tablecloth, she's laid our lunch, a multi-course affair that begins with a deconstructed chicken soup that we reconstruct in our bowls.
Egyél, kislányom, egyél.
Even now, in my late 30s, when I visit her, she refers to me as kislányom, my little girl. In 1989, my family moved to Budapest. I was 9. The Berlin Wall had fallen a month before, demarking the end of the Cold War. All of Europe seemed to be celebrating. It was the end of walls, people said, the end of divisions. A new era of global openness was upon us. In Hungary, people of my parents' and grandparents' generations told stories of the decades behind the Iron Curtain in which they'd been separated from the West by minefields, barbed wire, and guns. Even when the mines had been removed, travel for Hungarians was restricted to countries within the Soviet bloc. Those who were able to obtain permission from the government to travel to the West were often scrutinized when they returned. Those who were caught attempting to leave illegally were imprisoned. With the end of the Cold War, all Hungarians were able to travel freely. For the first time in 40 years, multi-party elections were held. Trade with the West opened. Prosperity was promised to follow. American manufacturers, like the company my father worked for, were eager to utilize the tax breaks and highly skilled workforce that Hungary proffered. My family rented two tiny adjacent apartments. Erzsé was hired by the crazy landlady to cook for us and report on our activities, which she neglected to do. She cooked traditional Hungarian peasant dishes, heavy with pork lard and sour cream, goulash, fruit soup, spicy meat patties, fried dough sweetened with syrup, crepes filled with apricot jam. Once, as an after-school snack, she dished up a thing I mistook for a sausage. When I bit into it, I was shocked to find bones. Gooseneck. She laughed at the ick face I made as I struggled to chew. It was gross. It was really gross. Erzsé never used recipes. She measured ingredients with her hands and fingers and gauged the temperature of the oven by the height of the flames. She spoke no English. While cooking, she taught me Hungarian by using body gestures. My favorite cake was made with 2 handfuls of list, 1 handful of cukor, a melted stick of vaj, and a spoonful of vanilla, and 3 tojás. Bake for how long, I asked. Until it's done, of course. Erzsé had been semi-illiterate most of her life. She dropped out of the village's school as a girl to work in the vineyards of the local farming collective. By the age of 14, she was working double shifts in a cannery. She learned to read properly so that she could help her children with their homework, as she did with me, chopping onions while I studied at the kitchen table. The sting of their perfume made us both laugh and giggle, and then laugh, and then cry, and then giggle, and then cry. You have your head. We, the poor, have only our hands, she said. So study hard. What do you want to be when you grow up? First lady. She laughed. Okay, be that. She'd cleaned hotel rooms for much of her adult life, but with the arrival of foreigners in Hungary, she was able to establish herself as a private cook. We were her first clients. Soon she was cooking weekly for 5 different households. Her intelligence, perfectionism, and easy humor found a place in the new economy. She was able to support her family. This was not the case for many Hungarians. Inflation, skyrocketing interest rates, and corruption undermined the economic prospects of nearly everyone but the nouveau riche. Like Erzsi, many people believed that life had been better for the masses under communism. The new system served only a few. This sentiment was not limited to rural laborers. The global economic crisis of 2008 hit Hungary's fragile economy hard. That laid the foundation for the rise of their current, very authoritarian Prime Minister, Viktor Orban. After his election in 2010, Orban quickly began undermining Hungary's young democracy by controlling the media, changing the voting laws, and stoking anti-Islamic and anti-Semitic sentiments. His supporters praised him for the revival of the Hungarian economy, which is now booming. But he's most well known outside of Hungary for confining thousands of refugees in Budapest's eastern rail station during the migrant crisis of 2015, and for constructing an impassable border wall along Hungary's southern border to stop more potential detainees from entering the country. Thus, in 25 years, a new Iron Curtain has been reestablished along Hungarian southern and eastern borders. It is a different kind of boundary, one made of razor wire and electrified fencing, rather than the minefields and gunmen's of yesterday. But it is designed to prevent humans from accessing the same freedoms that many Hungarians sought just a few decades ago: the right to flee violence and oppression, the right to pursue a productive and secure life. If any of this is sounding scarily familiar to our own troubles with leadership and border walls, perhaps it should serve as a warning. Orban has been re-elected 3 times. Each time, he has further solidified power. In mid-May, he made his first trip to the White House at President Trump's invitation, during which Trump described Hungary's leader as having done a tremendous job. I have never asked Erzsi if she voted for Orban's party. She used to tell me, "The walls have ears. If you want to live a long and happy life, you should not discuss politics." But when I last visited her, she asked with a wry smile, "Kislányom, do you still want to be the president's wife?" I made an ick face. And then, once again, we laughed until we both wept.
Tojás, jó házi tojás. Zsófi néni tojás. Az jó tojás volt. Olyan tojás már nem is lehet kapni a boltba. Ezt mindezt jó összekeverőd. Keverőd, mert csomó nem lehet bennem, akkor nem lesz jó. Kevered, fél órát kellett kevernem gyerekkoromban. Fél órát.
Thank you.